about horses and their care, where our motto is companionship, care, and commitment. I'm your host, Gabriela Rodriguez, and today's show is called Making Hay. Hay is a very important product that our horses need to live. And horse owners also is very important to us because without hay, what would we do? So today, I'd like to introduce our guest who has expertise not only with hay, specifically with making hay, but also with horses. So I'd like to introduce to you today Aaron Banks.
Hello.
Of Al Doobie Quarter Horses in Biddeford, Maine.
Yep.
So Aaron, can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved with making hay and with horses and just a little bit about your background?
Sure. I've started off doing a bunch of construction jobs, did everything from roofing to framing to concrete to you name it. And I was working landscaping for a little while and I didn't like the job anymore, so a lady hired me to work at her hotel as a maintenance guy, and eventually they ended up selling the hotel. When they sold it, they asked me to come with them, and they bought, I don't know, about 80 acres of haying land. So they had a couple of farmers come in and do the haying, and they'd end up cutting it and not picking it up and leaving it on the field and stuff. So the husband got very upset with that, so he went out and bought all new haying equipment. And
wow, so you took over those 80 acres, all that, and so they just left it?
Yeah, they would cut it. Sometimes they would pick it up. Other times they'd wait
Just
a
leave
week and come back and get it. But
Now,
it was
can I just ask you, just from somebody that doesn't understand, why anybody would do that?
too busy,
Okay.
too much going on. Didn't really care.
Okay.
You know.
Because what we're going to talk about a little bit is how difficult this process is of
Yeah.
making hay, how laborious it is.
It is. It's a long hours.
So then what happened?
So he bought the equipment. He spent probably $250,000 on stuff, and he had the guy that brought the equipment show me how to run it somewhat. You know, and it's a lot of trial by error. I mean, for me, it was just making square bills. I didn't know the difference between the hay. I figured all hay was the same, and until I started getting some complaints and realized that it is different.
Okay.
You know, and I actually, Al Doobie actually enlightened me quite a bit on the nutrients and the you know, what's in the ground, what should be coming out of the ground, what's good and what's bad. So.
Because he hayed his entire life, did he not?
Pretty much. I mean, he worked for the shipyard for quite a while, but then he started doing horses, and he ran into the same problems, getting bad quality hay from other people, and he just finally decided to go off and do it on his own.
Well, sometimes that's the best thing to do.
It is. It really is.
And I actually had the pleasure of having some of your hay, and my horses just enjoyed it so much, so
God
I
bless
appreciate
Al.
that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So in a show previous to this, somebody asked me, well, what is hay? And I just gave them a kind of a flippant answer, very simple. I said, well, it's just dead grass.
Yeah.
But it's not really dead, it's dry.
No, yeah, it's kind of a, you know, in a sense it's dead. Probably technically it's probably dead, but in a sense it's dried. You're cutting it. You're trying to cut the hay at a certain point in its growth process to keep all the proteins, sugars, so you can transfer basically that over to your animal. So, you know, you want to get them at a certain, you know, there's times and stuff when you want to get it, but you need to have it dried to a certain percentage.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking, that was moisture that you mentioned to me the other day, right?
You know, and a lot of guys are, you know, I don't always use a moisture tester, but I always fart around to see what hay's at for color, but standard is 7%. That's what that's the quality, generally for hay is 7%.
And people like me would never even have a clue what that means, but you know, and that's a really important part of the haymaking process, right?
Yeah, and the reason I know is because at a certain percentage, like 20% for us, that's when the hay's going to dust. So.
And we, as horse owners, know we don't like dust because the horses, it's not good for the horses.
And then you're getting into the categories of heating up, and it becomes a bad scene. But,
dangerous,
actually.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have some beautiful hay here. Can you show us what some of the grasses? Well, first of all, there's two categories, from what I understand. There's legume. Do I say that correctly? Legume.
Yep, legume.
Which is?
It's alfalfa, clover. You know.
And there's like red clover and white clover.
And white clover. Yes, actually, red clover is better for horses. For some reason, the white clover doesn't really sit well with some horses. I mean, not all of them, but it's definitely, you know, but the cows generally don't really care.
Yeah, be nice to get that tested.
Yeah.
And just to see what the difference. Somebody must know what's in there. I should Google it.
We have pastures that's got some white clover in it. let horses run it, and then they come in, they don't feel as good. You can tell the difference. So
yeah.
we can't keep them in those pastures. But other horses you put out there, they're fine.
Yeah.
So
and generally horses love clover because is it sweet? Is that what they like
I'm
about
not really sure. I would say so. That's probably why. I mean, along with everything.
They like sugar.
Yeah, they like lots
kids.
of sugar. That's probably why they like alfalfa and timothy and everything else.
So there's the legume,
yep,
and then there's
grasses.
grass.
Yep.
2 categories of hay. All right, and so our grass hays, let's maybe just talk about the grasses in Maine, because throughout the United States, I guess probably throughout the world, there's a lot of different types of grasses, right?
Yeah, and we're, we have, timothy, which is considered a grass.
It's beautiful.
It is, and you kind of, I cut this, I'm a little late getting on this field, but I cut this this
I almost got
morning.
a vase to put it in because it's so pretty.
Yeah, you want to get it generally before the head comes out of it, because
And that's the head up there.
These are the heads. This is going to seed. So So basically, the plant's trying to do is grow as big and tall as it can, get its flower out, get its seed spread. Bees, pollinate.
Reproduce.
Basically, that's its job. Our job is to get it before it hits that point.
So this is sort of like flowers?
Yeah.
Like a flower?
In a sense,
okay.
yeah, like a regular plant.
So when people see a flower,
yeah,
they can understand what's happening to this timothy.
Yeah. It's doing the same thing, trying to flower out.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it's doing.
Okay, so when you see timothy in your hay, is that good?
That's good, yes. You definitely want, this is first crop. First crop grows a lot faster
Big head.
and a lot quicker.
Yep.
So you tend to find more heads on it, which is fine. It's just once it starts, the grass wants to grow as quickly and as rapidly as possible. So with first crop, we try to get on the fields, by the end of May, but for dry stuff, generally, the dairy farmers will get on there a little sooner.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but it's once we're done with, or once spring starts, we talk about mud season and all these things that affect regular people.
Yeah.
This is a completely different thing for you because you've got to get out there and start taking care of the hay between
we only
some
have
point.
Yes, we have a very small window. We
yeah.
only have pretty much, if you're lucky, you'll get to October, but a lot of times it's pretty much May to September.
And if you're lucky, you sleep.
Yeah, sometimes yeah.
Right.
If you don't have rain.
Okay, so this beautiful bale that you have, how much would you say that it weighs?
Anyway, our bales generally weigh anywhere from 40 to 50 pounds.
That's a lot of hay.
Yeah, and they're about 18 inches wide and about 3 to 3.5 feet long.
Okay, now are all bales those specifications, or do they vary greatly?
They do, depending, there's a lot of, depending on the hay, the type of hay that they're baling, you could get smaller bales, looser bales,
yep.
how they run their baler.
Okay.
Is another, because you can adjust the baler for density,
okay.
which is your weight, and then you can also adjust it for length.
Okay.
I was talking to a woman that she gets hay from 3 different people, and she was getting 70-pound bales from this guy.
Wow.
And they were like 4 feet long.
Were they bigger than those?
They're
okay.
a little bit longer, but
yep.
but he just cranked his density. I don't know if he knew what he was
So
doing.
does that mean that there's very little moisture in there when you say density?
No, density is the packing.
Okay, that has nothing to do with, okay.
That's how much
just
that
the packing.
packs.
All right.
Because what's happening is it's going in, there's a machine that's pushing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you get what's called banana bales.
Okay.
Which are very long.
I had never heard of that, yeah.
Very long bales, but what's happening is your windrows, when you're raking, they're bigger.
Okay.
So the baler doesn't have time to keep up with that amount of hay going in, so it's got needles shooting up and everything else.
Okay.
So, but on average, you'll get if you set it up right, your baler will produce an average size bale.
Okay.
But generally, you'll get smaller or you'll get bigger, depending on what you're doing.
The smaller ones are easier because that motion that you guys have to do to put them in the loft that I can't believe you can do
but
for
you
years
guys don't make out from the smaller bales,
That's right.
unfortunately.
That's right.
We do, but you don't.
But I've also, in all the bales that I've handled, I've handled some bales that my fingers, I had a really hard time even getting underneath the twine.
That's when the density controllers cranked right up on.
Yeah, so this is nice because they're easier to handle, and the hay's just beautiful.
We had a lot of trouble getting them to this point because I had some issues with our baler, but we're finally right where we're at. So.
And we're going to talk about that too because there's a lot to this.
Yeah.
What other types of grasses are in that's the first crop?
This is the first crop.
What type? Is first crop generally coarser than second crop?
Yeah, it's always coarser.
Okay.
You're always going to find it's coarser. It's later in its stages in life, and by the time a lot of people get on it. As far as other grasses, you got wheat canary grass. You got I call it swamp grass.
Swamp grass.
Because
I've never heard of that.
Well, you get into wetter areas, low spots,
right.
and you get the finer type of grass.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have any nutritional value, but
Yeah.
you know, the horses will eat it.
Yeah,
generally
but
anyway,
wouldn't it have a lot of moisture because it's
Nope.
swampy?
No,
Oh, okay.
if
See,
you
I
can
don't-
ted it, you know, it generally the grass.
It doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't. The grass generally will sit on top of the other grass.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you want, especially in those spots because it's not as thick.
Yep.
So you know, unlike when you get a big bumper first crop, you need to spread it out, flip it over, and that's tedding. They call it tedding. That's their
Tedding,
process
okay,
of flipping and
okay.
whatnot. But
So do you have any fescue in that hay?
I believe so.
Is there, well, how about orchard grass?
Orchard grass,
What
yes.
does orchard grass look like?
I don't know if I can find one in here. It's pretty well packed, but
What is most of that grass?
It's
Is
a
it
thicker.
Timothy?
Yeah, most of
Okay.
it's Timothy, and there is some thicker. Orchard tends to be a little bit thicker. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? Straw hay or anything like that in there, because that's usually an oat or a.
Okay, okay.
But,
All right. So, but this is a mixture of several grasses.
Yes.
Right? The orchard grass,
We
the
try to get-
Timothy grass.
Yeah, and
Clover?
for us, we try to get more Timothy, more clover, and more alfalfa.
Yeah.
That's our basic goal, because we're trying to make a good salad, basically.
Yes.
For
Well,
our
there is a
horses.
recipe probably
Yes,
to making good
yes,
hay.
to getting so they can get the nutrients out of the hay that they need,
Yes.
so we don't have to supplement for other stuff.
Yes, and because you have horses, you can understand their digestive system,
Yes.
and that's all we'll say about that.
Yeah.
But it's a very intricate system.
It is. It really is. They have quite a system. But yes.
So now that other bale there,
Th-
that
this
looks
is-
it looks to me like even as a regular person, I would say it just looks beautiful. It looks like I could eat it.
Yeah.
Mix it up with something and eat it or snack on it. But is that second crop?
Yes, that is second crop. Second crop is a lot earlier in the stages of its life, so it's a lot finer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really tend to see a lot of heads on it. You'll get
Okay.
some flowers.
Timothy heads, you
Yeah,
mean, yeah.
Timothy heads.
But
even-
there are some. Are those little flowers?
Yep, this is the clover.
Oh wow.
Clover's
okay.
really quick at growing. Clover really flowers out really rapidly, and
Okay.
you try to get the clover before that has flowers on it too.
Right.
But you never really do it.
You do
'cause
the best you
You
can.
do the best you can because it grows really fast.
But it's pretty.
yes.
It'd be a nice decoration.
It's very nice, and and some people. This is a lady told some guy that she didn't want the hay once before because it was too green. You generally, we try to keep our moisture at somewhere around 10 to 15%. A lot of guys leave it out in the field till it's brown.
I've seen that.
But you don't want that because
I
that.
feel badly for the hay that's sitting out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're burning off all your nutrients that's in the hay.
Yes.
You want to leave, if this bale, you open it up, it's a little bleached out by the sun because it's at the end of the hay barn, but if you pull some of it, it's green.
It's green on the inside.
You want some green in your bales.
Right.
You really do.
Okay, so we have the grass hays over there and then the legume hays over here. And what is this?
This is alfalfa.
And that's really pretty, starting to wilt though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I cut this morning too, and actually we're probably right at the stages where we should be cutting with this too.
Okay.
But this has a lot of, alfalfa tends to have a the calcium in it and
Yes.
the low phosphorus.
Yes.
Not the
and that can
same-
be a big problem.
Yeah,
So you have to be careful.
It's a lot of, and the protein in this is really, the horses, they like it and it's good, but they can't completely live off of this. They need supplements to make up for the stuff. But even cows, I don't know if the cows could really do well off straight alfalfa, maybe. But
Well, you have to have nutritional balance, whether you're a person, a horse, or a
Yeah.
cow, or whatever you are.
Yeah.
That has to work,
so,
right?
Yeah, and we've been lucky enough. It's a very invasive plant. It will steal the nutrients from its counterparts.
So it's like
next
a
to-
weed.
Yeah, it really does. And we've been lucky enough to find that it actually works pretty good in our fields. We've had it the last 3 years just coming back into droves, unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's worked out really well, and now it's moving across the property, so it's really
Yeah.
good.
But as a horse owner, or any horse owner, would just have to know and have as much information as they can in order to know what their horse needs
Yeah.
and how to properly feed their horse based on what that horse needs nutritionally, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, baleage, I hear all these words called
Baleage.
baleage, silage,
There's baleage,
haylage, I
Baleage,
think.
yeah, baleage, silage, and haylage.
Okay.
Haylage is done a lot in Europe. Haylage is basically hay for horses because Europe doesn't have the weather that we have. So what they tend to do is they round bale, and then they'll wrap it.
Okay, so let me just explain for people that don't know round bales, when they're driving around in this beautiful state that we have,
Yeah.
and they look over on a field and they see these great big huge
Bales.
round, and I had a slideshow I wasn't able to put on,
Yeah.
but they're probably this tall.
Yeah, there are four. Generally, a normal size, average size bale is probably 3.5 by 4. A lot of people get 4 by 4s. We try to make ours at 4.5 by 4s.
Okay.
There's generally, they say 15 to, in a 4 by 4 bale, they say there's 15 to 20 square bales
Okay.
in a round bale.
Okay, that's good to know.
You know, I think it's a little lesser, but
Yeah.
that's what they call it, because you lose a lot when you take them apart.
Yeah, but basically those are the two main types of hay people that have
Around here, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
square and round.
Square and round. Out west, they do bigger square bales that are 4 feet by 8 feet long.
Square bales?
Square bales, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
But you know, you get into a whole nother category of,
Sure.
of equipment.
Different.
Same with the round bales. A lot
Yeah.
of people, you know, would love to feed round bales because they're cheaper, but the problem is getting the equipment to move them around.
Yeah, but you know what? I've also found using round bales that you waste a lot. But
Yeah.
and I see the horses clean it up. If it's good square hay, they eat it.
Yeah.
But
You know,
either way, you're
it depends
always
on, you know,
the challenge.
People put them out so they have, you know, something to do during the day.
Yes.
You know, so that's the other, you know,
That's
thing.
a definite advantage because they don't have anything to do usually but eat something, and they
something,
should be nibbling.
Yeah.
All right. So as far as round bales go, when they're talking about baleage and silage and haylage, they're all round too,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
However, there's a
However,
difference.
Actually, they make a square barrel wrapper too, but
Oh,
that's all weather stuff.
okay.
But we'll stick to around here. Yeah,
Okay.
Generally, so silage bales were made, you know, for people with, you know, cows, or I don't know if, I'm not sure, they might feed them to goats too, but
yeah.
generally, you know, for us, we don't have a bunker, because what they'll do is, if dairy farmers do, they
Like
have
a shelter?
yeah, like a
Okay.
big concrete bunker.
Okay.
Dairy farmers will chop their hay, put it in a wagon, and they'll drive over it and pack it down, and then they'll put a big cover over it.
Okay.
So what happens is a process. It's fermenting. It's burning off all the leftover oxygen and creating sugars inside the bale.
Okay.
So what we try to do for silage, for round bales, for us, is we try to get it, the moisture content at, you know, it varies for different guys, but we try to get it around 50%. Then we wrap it. 28 days later, we can feed it out, because that's when all the oxygen burns off.
Okay.
and it's gone.
But in that wrapping process, I understand once you wrap it, you're trying to keep all the air out.
Yeah.
Because if there's any air in there, then
Well, you
there's
know,
bacteria, right?
you want to stop the air.
Okay.
So, but you're
Okay.
basically hitting a light switch.
Okay.
You're keeping what's in there.
Yes.
So then it will use what's in there and burn it off.
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
the fermenting
Very
kind of
interesting.
process. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't touch it. You're not technically you're not. You're supposed to drop it, leave it where it's supposed to be. But you know, you have to move them. So.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a science behind everything. But
There's a science and it's an art.
yeah.
But so those are the two different types, and you have to really talk to somebody and find out what your horse needs and what's best for your horse in order to do it. And just, you know, from my perspective, if you're in a barn where everybody does one thing, you may need to do something else, so you just have to investigate.
Yes.
As far as haying, well, first of all, I guess we were talking about who eats hay, who's like the prey animal, well, not necessarily prey, but the herbivore. And
Yeah.
we know horses are.
Horses,
And cows.
yep.
So horses and cows, we know for sure they exist
Off of this.
almost.
Yeah.
They need good hay.
Yep.
Grasses have a lot of disadvantages. Live grass has a lot of
Yep.
disadvantages for horses, at least.
They eat too much. They
And
have a bad time.
also
Yeah.
the grain,
The
because
grain.
it's unnatural.
We actually, for us, our hay quality is really good. So what we try to do is we feed oats.
Yes.
We don't have to, you know, because unfortunately grain has a lot of sugar, you know, and
From the breakdown of the carbohydrates.
yeah, and, you know, and it you know, and makes horses slightly crazy. But
Yep. Well, they're all unnatural.
yeah.
The
Yeah, it's a
horses-
process, you
yeah.
know, it's processed food for them.
So, you know, and I agree with that,
Yeah.
because as far as the care, and what I encourage people to do is feed more hay and make sure that they have enough of it.
Yeah, and you know, and the correct, you know, mixture is good. You know, you
Yes.
try to, and it's good, you know, and it's good to have a little variety of different things. You know, and not you don't have to,
Absolutely.
you don't you know, have to buy hay from the same person all the time. It's
Yeah.
you know, it's good to get out and try different stuff and see what your horse likes. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, for us, we just have so many horses. It's it'd be crazy. We'd spend $30,000
Life.
buying freaking hay every
Right,
year, but,
right.
so it's easier.
You have to be practical at some points.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your work, the season. What's the season in Maine?
We have from May,
Start.
pretty much, dairy farmers try to get on as soon as they can. A lot of them, depending on their fields and how wet it is, they will get on, in May, early May. I'm usually on the field they try to be on by the end of May, cutting silage. And then it's first crop. You try to be done with first crop by the end of June or beginning of July.
Yeah.
Try. And then second crop, the end of July to, depending on where you are in your process of cutting.
Into end of August,
You want
like now?
Yeah, I mean,
we're going into Labor Day,
yeah,
right?
And if September tends to be a little warm around here, so if you can be done by the end of September, you're doing good.
Yeah.
But
so then, does the grass grow again?
Yeah.
Some places, so you can get
it does.
an
It
actual
slows
third
down
crop?
quite a bit. I mean, the cold nights and the long morning dews, it slows down
Right.
quite a bit. That's why it costs so much for people to buy second crop, because we're doing the same amount of work but getting less results.
Okay, okay. And so would that apply to third crop too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Even lesser results. So is the sugar content higher in third crop? So
No, it's
as opposed to second?
No, it's the
Not the
same.
same?
It's the
Okay.
same. I mean, they call it
I've
third
never
crop,
had
but
third crop,
yeah,
but I
it's
know.
the same. I mean, the plants.
Horses love it.
Yeah, depending if you and the other thing is depending if you fertilize your fields or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How much sugar it's getting from the ground and getting into it.
Right.
Did it steal all that sugar from the second crop? Now going into third crop. So it's kind of, all the proteins and whatnot. But
Very interesting.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit. Okay, so that's the season. So after Easter, you're ready to go.
Yep.
And you're going until school starts, or
pretty much,
sometime
yeah.
in September.
I mean, I've
busy.
I've cut in October. It's not great, but
Yeah.
I have before.
Yeah.
You want to be done.
So,
You're
but
ready
tell
to
me
be
about
done.
your hours. So, what's a typical day like as far as when you start? And you have to do it when the weather's nice.
Yes.
And the weather's going to be nice for a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah. And then we need a 3-day stretch. Minimum of a 3-day stretch. I'd like to have a 4 just in case, but
Yeah.
something breaks
That
down.
would be nice.
But which happens. But we start, we wait till the morning dews off. Usually you can tell by
Okay.
walking through the grass. If your feet don't get wet, it's time to cut. So
Right.
I usually out there by 10 o'clock cutting. I'll cut all day. Usually, depending on the size of the field, I'll cut in about 10
And does it
hours.
have to be sunny day?
Yeah.
Is that the best?
Yeah,
Because
I
if
mean,
it's
you can
overcast,
cut it any time, but you're better
Yeah.
off cutting it because, I mean, if you're cutting it when it's sunny, it's already starting that process of drying.
Okay.
And
That makes sense.
we have a conditioner on our mower which it beats off all the plastic, or wax,
Yes.
basically, that's on there, so
Yeah.
it dries it out faster. But yeah, and then the next day, some guys ted it right after. I leave it up, cut it, leave it up. Next day, I'll go out and ted it. I try to ted as less as possible because
And tedding is again what?
it's basically spreading out the grass.
Oh yes, I've
There's-
seen it out there.
Yeah, it's a
Looks
bunch
really
of
pretty.
forks that basically just spreads the grass out.
Yeah.
First you want to go at a higher RPM with your tractor, spread it all out. The next day you just want to go at a lower RPM, and it basically just takes it and flips it over.
Okay.
So
and
the other side
you're
dries.
drying it more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
not all clumped up.
It's very pretty. Yeah. Pretty process.
If you take a handful of anything and clump it up, it's not going to dry as good as you
That
would
makes
if
sense.
you flatten it out.
Right.
So
Wow. So this is the second day.
yeah.
So we've got 1 day, now we've got 2 days.
Yeah.
And then the third day.
Third day, if it's not dry enough, usually I'll ted first thing in the morning, and then I'll grab the rake. Which a
Okay.
rake is what actually puts it into rows,
Okay.
so we can take the baler and bale it up.
Okay. So now when I look and I see what I see, I'll be able to understand that process a little bit more
Yeah.
because I've seen it, but I've never really quite known what exactly
what's
what they're
going on.
doing.
So
right.
yeah, if you see it flat, they're drying it. If you see it up in rows, it means they're getting ready to pick it up.
Okay. So that's the third day that
That's
you.
usually the third day.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to be done.
Okay, and then that means that you, I don't know what the language is, but you roll it or you
Bale
put
it.
the bale it. You bale it.
You bale it.
You bale it.
You
Yes,
bale it.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Either
All
round
right.
bale it or square bale it. You bale it.
All right. So I would think right after the dew's gone, so you maybe get to sleep in a little bit.
Yeah, something. Not necessarily, but yeah.
But you're out there
Yeah.
You're out there.
We're out there until the sun pretty much goes
Down. And I was talking to you about a little bit because I see people doing this all the time, and it looks really beautiful. The pastures, the grass, I mean, just the entire energy that you get from the environment, and it's so the land, but it's really, really hard work, and you've got all this equipment. And a lot of it looks really dangerous.
Yeah. It breaks
You've
down
got to
all
be
the
really,
time.
and it breaks down. The other day you said that
Yep.
you had a tire that was flat. That's different than calling AAA.
Yeah. It's
and saying, "Come please and
yeah.
help me with my car," right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you've got all this hay out there.
Yeah, and and you try to schedule. That's why I like generally 4 days, but you try to schedule it so you can get it off the field. But stuff always pops. Even when I first started haying, even the new stuff would break down on me. So
Yeah.
I was always, we're always trying to fix it. There's for
sort
me
of like
lately,
with horses,
yeah,
always
yeah.
trying something new.
It's trying something new, but but generally, yeah. I mean, the equipment, it's not cheap to fix. I mean,
Yeah.
on an average, you're probably spending anywhere from $50 to $200 to fix it. I mean, the tire was $800 that popped that
Wow.
we had to fix. So
It's more than $80 that I paid
yeah,
for
and
my
a whole
car.
day's
Yeah.
lost of fixing it.
Yeah, and you're on a window of time,
Yes,
so that can be probably very frustrating.
it is.
So let's talk a little bit more about some of the other costs. Like it has to cost you to have all this equipment, and you charge. I mean, in Maine, I think it's between $4 and $5 or so. That's what
Yep.
I've seen for hay,
Yep.
for a square bale, and round bales cost anywhere from $50 to $60.
Yep.
But your costs are enormous, and the time that you put into
A lot.
that.
We figured out it cost for a first crop bale, you're pretty much spending anywhere from $3 to $4 to make it, and depending on your fuel cost, your twine cost.
Yes.
And a lot of guys don't account for their hours that they're out there. I mean, that's 3 days of 10-hour days in the field.
Yeah.
A round bale.
So you really don't get paid for that,
No.
the labor.
No.
You get paid for, hopefully,
Yeah.
your costs.
Yeah, I mean the good thing about haying, the way I look at it, the good thing about haying for us and probably a lot of guys that hay, it's a nice chunk of money within a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Whether you make anything out of it at the end of the year is to be seen. But
Yeah.
it's fuel costing us $3.50 a gallon. We're running a 30-gallon tank that only lasts us about 15 hours in the tractor.
Wow.
There's a lot involved. I mean, a round bale costs anywhere from $30 to $40, and then if somebody wants, we generally don't pay for our hay. We have a couple customers that want money, but at the same time, 350 bales cost me, at $3.50 a bale,
Right.
it costs me a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, then you tack that on to what your costs are for the bales, so now
Right.
you're adding another $10 to your bales.
Yeah.
And,
So I imagine if you had your own equipment and you had a real serious, sort of like if you have a horse and they tell you it's going to cost $50,000 to fix them,
yeah.
and you have a piece of equipment and it's going to cost you $50,000, I mean, that could be
Yeah.
foreseeably the end for some people because that's got to be really hard
It is.
to
It's
do
a lot.
economically.
To go out and, I mean, a small round baler could probably cost you $10,000 to anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. A big round baler for what we do would cost us $20,000 to $30,000.
Wow.
And a lot of guys, God bless them, they have a lot of old tractors and they still get out there and they still do it, and God bless them for doing it. I mean, they
Yeah.
probably have a lot more problems than we do, but I mean,
Yeah. But it looks therapeutic.
it does. It is very.
So that must be part of it, and the enjoyment,
Yes.
and part of the tradition.
Yeah.
The tradition is important, right?
know,
And the horses need the hay. What would we do without it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, so as horse owners, I really appreciate what
Yeah.
you do. Let's talk a little bit about the processing and the nutrients. We talked about processing already. I wanted people to understand. I didn't know this. I used to hear people saying, "Oh, it's second cut or first cut," and said, "What in the world is that?" And then I found out cut means crop.
Yeah.
So then that made a little more sense.
Yeah.
But the language sometimes
Yeah.
throws you because you don't know what it
It's
all
like-
means.
Farmer lingo, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about fertilizers.
Yes.
That's another huge cost and another huge piece of labor
It is.
that's necessary, really, in order
You have to what you're doing is, what the plant is doing is sucking the vitamins and the nutrients out of the ground. So you basically have to put back on what you take out.
Yeah, okay.
So for us, we don't use any commercial fertilizers. That would be crazy for us. We produce all our own manure, cow. We have a basically
Natural process.
Yeah, we basically make a sawdust with horse, cow manure, and it's all mixed together. It's broken down, and it's probably not as high as the commercial stuff, but it's cheaper for us. I mean, we still have to pay somebody to haul it off to the fields, and then I
Right.
have to get out there and it, spreading manure.
And when do you do that?
We try to do it in the fall.
Okay, so after you're done with haying season,
Everything's
it's
done.
not over.
Yeah, they know. We try to do it in the fall. If we can't get to it in the fall, we usually end up doing it in the springtime as quick as we can before the grass starts kicking in. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a process. You do it probably till the first frost.
yeah. Well,
Like-
even, we can keep fertilizing until there's snow on the ground.
Yeah,
legally.
okay. So sort of like me raking leaves.
Yes,
Until
pretty
there's snow on
yeah.
the ground, and then you start shoveling.
It is, that costs us money too, because we're spending about $50 an hour driving around in circles.
Right.
So.
So one thing, and I was going to ask you this because it was sort of a joke before, but because of how intense your work is, and when people see somebody in a tractor or whatever kind of equipment it has, whether it's one of those long prongs or a rake, you got to be watching what you're doing. You can't be on your phone or
No, there's
texting. I mean, you could, but you shouldn't be.
there's
right?
a lot of variables. For cutting, you got to, when we're cutting, I got to watch watch out for animals in the grass.
So you actually have to look.
Yeah, you
and
have to look
oversee
up,
everything.
see
That
on your
must be really
side,
hard.
plus keep yourself straight,
Yep.
and make sure you're not running over anything you're not supposed to
Wow.
on the cutter.
Can we show? Do you have that piece of skateboard that I brought?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so we can.
That'll-
That was a
That'll actually
skateboard.
break a mower head on you, and that will
That's
cost you quite a
amazing.
bit of money, about $250 to replace.
Oh, so it
Not
broke the
accounting-
equipment too.
Not accounting for the, sometimes.
Wow.
I mean, not accounting for the time you get
Yeah.
fixing it too. So it's
Okay.
yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to mention that hay in the northeast or in this area of Maine is lacking in, I know, selenium, right? Is it southern Maine, or is it all of Maine, or is
I
it?
think it's pretty much most
Hampshire?
of Maine.
Okay.
I don't know about the other states. I know selenium was a big thing because
Okay.
we got some Piedmont cattle out of Georgia, and that was one thing we had to make up for with them was the selenium.
Selenium, yeah.
So
So people feeding hay need to be aware of that, and you have to somehow get it to your
find it,
horses.
whether it's a salt lick or a salt block or
Exactly,
minerals
because that's what
anyway.
they have those for, too.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as nutrients go, I know that you can test your hay.
Yep.
You can, but that's for a horse owner, huge expense.
Oh, yeah.
And if you get hay from the same person, but it's different fields,
yes.
it's also
Yeah.
going to have different results.
It's going to have
right?
different quality hay. I mean, not quality, but different kinds of hay, different grass, different legumes. It depends on what they, kind of what they try. We try to get the same result in every field.
Okay, yes, that's
Not
important.
everybody's the same.
Consistency.
Yeah. Some
Consistency.
guys pick up extra fields during the year, never been fertilized. They just
Right.
cut it.
They just
bale
cut it. Yeah, and as a horse owner, you have to kind of make sure you know your stuff and know what your
bit,
horse
yeah.
is getting, because hay looks a little yellow doesn't mean it's not full of nutrients, and because it's
Yeah.
really green doesn't mean it has nutrients,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Not
Yeah,
necessarily.
Not necessarily.
How about the smell?
Smell? There is a smell to it. I mean, grass. It's hard to describe. I know a wet.
Smells good.
Yeah, it smells good. I know a wet bale has kind of a sour smell to it.
Yes.
That's the dampening in it. But other than that, everything, it's just like fresh. It's like dried grass.
Well, it's
I
sort of
mean,
like
it's hard to
walking in a
explain.
barn that's really clean.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's no smell of ammonia or
Yes.
anything like that. It smells fresh.
There's nothing like a fresh cut field
It-
though.
it
I mean,
smells
it smells
good.
Smells good.
Yes.
It's nothing like it.
I was wondering how soon or how quickly is the hay losing its nutrients once it's
You can
once
probably
it's
get.
baled?
You probably get. We found that after 2 years, it's time for the bale to go. I mean.
But it can last too.
Yeah, we've used second crop. Actually, this is last year's second crop.
Wow.
back.
I would never have known.
So 2 years is about. I don't know the science behind it or when
Yeah.
it starts losing it, but we're usually about 2 years. We just say, it's time to
Yeah.
clean out and do
Yeah.
something with it. So.
Use it for something else.
Yeah, feed it to the cows or use it for bedding.
Right.
and,
I brought a little bit of this twine, and this. If you can explain to people what all this is.
this right here is net wrap.
Okay, net wrap.
Some guys use net wraps on their bales. We like it better because it holds in the stuff nicer, and we actually
Okay.
have a customer who leaves his dry bales outside for his cows.
Okay.
And this kind of helps keep some of the water off, not immensely, but
Okay.
it helps better than just with regular twine.
But it keeps it in a round shape
yeah, it
sooner.
keeps it better,
so,
and
yeah.
we wrap it for our cows so that you get less pokes through the plastic.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
A lot of guys use this. This is a plastic twine that they use on the round
Plastic,
bales.
okay.
The reason we don't like this is once you get a corner of it stuck, it just unravels the bale.
Ooh, yes, and I've noticed that.
Yeah, so once it
with
starts,
mine.
it just keeps going. This stuff usually is pretty flimsy. It just breaks right off.
Okay. Okay.
They also use this for square bales. Our
Yes.
square baler has a hard time using this stuff, and it doesn't break down as fast, so I don't really like this stuff. We tend to use this stuff right here, which is a hemp.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. I did know that that's from the hemp plant.
Yeah, they use. I believe it. They can check, but I believe it's a male hemp plant.
Yeah.
They turn it into fibers. I mean, they've always made clothes out of hemp, so now
Yeah.
they're making twine out of it. So, and I believe
It's pretty.
it is, and it works really well. I mean,
Yeah,
and
very strong.
And if you lose it, you break a bale in the field, you don't find the string, in a couple of years it'll be gone. You don't have to worry
Okay,
about
and that's nice to know. For people that are concerned about the environment and landfills and all these
Yeah.
things, we'd like to know where it's going, and we're all trying to figure out how in the world we're going to recycle it and make a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
especially
because
this. Yeah.
you have to pay for it. How much does twine cost?
Twine's anywhere from $35 to $40 for 2 rolls.
Oh my! How big are the rolls?
They're
as big as a round
pretty
bale?
good size. They're
No,
they're
not
about
even
that big.
Wow.
So and
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money, and you get 3 bundles, which is about six of them. Will get you about 1,000 bales.
Wow. So we've got a lot about the cost, the time. You must really enjoy it. We appreciate that you do this because, like I said, what would we do
Yep.
without it? And our horses need it. It's a mainstay
Yep.
to keep them healthy.
Horses, you gotta have hay.
I
Big
wanted
expense.
to. We have a special guest today. 2 little guests, a
Yep.
little guest, and another guest. And I'd like for Nicole. Nicole, can you come up and introduce yourself and Mason, and come right over here? Maybe you can sit on the veil. And I'd like to introduce to everyone. This is Nicole, Aaron's wife, who helps them so much. And this is their little boy, their little baby, who's 2 months old. Is 2 months, Mason. So we're introducing him today, and he may be. And then one thing we forgot to talk about was the future of haying.
Yes, if he likes it as much as I do, I hope so. If not, whatever makes him happy, really, at the end of the day.
Because, well, we think there's going to be horses. We hope there are horses
Yeah.
in these next generations, and we hope there are people that continue to make hay, and we hope that there's land,
Yeah.
because I understand that there's a problem with land.
There is, and I think the government will get a handle on it eventually, hopefully. But yeah, there's a lot of houses popping up, unfortunately, and we lose a lot of land a year. So, but you need farmers to eat.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you need cows, you need vegetables, you need this stuff. Whether you're a vegetarian or a meat lover, you need land
That's right.
to survive.
That's
So,
right. So hopefully we'll have it all figured out.
yeah, hopefully.
And that's our show for today.
Bless you.
Whoopsie, bless you. That's our show for today. Thank you for joining us. And stay tuned, because we're going to have part 2 of a hay show. It's going to be called Managing and Feeding Hay. So we have a whole lot of information on that show. Have a wonderful and safe Labor Day. And this is Gabriela Rodriguez. And remember to enjoy your horse, care for your horse, and keep your horse. See you next time. Bye-bye.